of our open proposals. I know we left it last. You had verbally agreed to most everything, and asked us to clean them up, you know, and bring them back so that we could see where we are. So this is everything except wages and the position classification and plan, I think. I know my allergies, sinuses are killing me. Justin. Okay, so the summary page has everything that is still open highlighted in yellow. We're down to 10 articles. Article 5, you guys have verbally agreed to, I believe.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Hours of work and overtime, providing for court time. I think that we reached verbal agreement on that.
Yes, ma'am.
Bereavement leave, we have made a couple of additions to the language since you all saw it last, and those are highlighted in yellow. It's just in the definitions. We added son-in-law, daughter-in-law. We added dependents, other relatives living with the employee or other dependents. That would allow for foster children or anyone else that is dependent on the employee. And individuals whose relationship with the employee is similar to that of persons who are related by blood or marriage, including domestic partners.
So same thing from the 6, just the highlighted changes?
That's it. Everything else is the same. Resignation, no changes there. You guys have verbally agreed to that. Same for vacation and sick leave. We haven't made any changes to those since you've seen them last.
Okay.
Retirement, no changes since we discussed that 29.3, increasing that to 100,000. And then entire agreement is we can get a 3-year agreement. So
Small change on 29.3, all that language was stricken
29.3.
compared to.
Oh, yeah, it was. That was implementation language that we had to add when we implemented the cap for the first time.
Okay.
We had to grandfather in anybody who had already reached that cap.
Okay.
But in this case, we're raising the cap. And so that type of language is really not necessary. We're going in the other direction. And so we don't need to, I don't believe we need any language for implementation.
And then the second paragraph, the one that begins with provisions, that one's got some slight changes from what we saw on the 6th.
It is. It's just, that's me just kind of cleaning it up. I had specified 29.2 and then 29.4 through 12. And this is just saying all of these, with the exception of 29.3, have already been codified. So are there any questions or?
Not so far, no, ma'am.
Changes or discussion? And that brings us to pay grade schedule and position classification and pay plan.
JJ was working on 5 through 29.
Okay, excellent. All right. JJ, do we usually sign 2 of those?
Okay.
I mean, I don't remember.
No,
You want
no,
two
normally
or
it's just the one.
One's fine with me.
Okay.
Okay, so 5 through
29?
29?
Yeah, I think.
Everything
30.
Everything in this packet?
Except for the entire.
Okay.
Okay.
Keep that till we get wages.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you. Do you need this one? I've got, not anymore. Okay, before we get into the pay schedules, we do have one additional proposal in the position classification and pay plan. Actually, a couple of one language change and one additional proposal. On the acting sergeant pay, we had some discussion last time about consecutive working days and what that means. That language was copied over from some other contract or some other personnel policy or something that we, the intent was all of those days that are regularly scheduled working days. In your case, that's every day. So we changed the language to calendar days, just to be clear, so there's no ambiguity about what we're talking about.
Yes, ma'am.
When we say 15 consecutive days, we mean 15 consecutive calendar days.
Yes, ma'am.
Not actual days worked. Okay. And on the next page, emergency management pay. This is something that you guys did not ask for, but it did come up in our LIUNA discussions, and we've been giving it some consideration. In this past storm, we paid everyone who was activated, we paid at time and a half, including hours that were resting at a city facility. You know, LIUNA brought to our attention that since we are paying full administrative leaves at straight time for employees who are not working, who are dismissed for the regular schedule hours, you know, they said those of us who are activated are only getting 0.5 more than those who are not working at all. And so we've given it some thought, and we are planning to come back to LIUNA with this proposal to pay double time for activated hours during an event. And of course, that's a period declared by the city manager. And it'll be a specified period of time. And then hours that are resting during that period, if you're activated but you're resting at a city facility, will be paid at straight time, which is what your current language provides for. And then any other hours that are resting away from the facility, you know, when you go home, if you're released from duty, then you would fall under your normal contract provisions. So does anybody have any questions or thoughts, comments?
So that's just for our city or for activations as well?
Well, good point, David. That is, the way it's written is just for our city. You
Okay.
all have mutual aid pay.
Well, I know that in 2020, we had talked about and got this section of the contract in, and I just wanted more for clarification.
No, you're
So
right.
it still says it still says time and 1/2 under subsection 2, and that would be for
mutual aid.
non-standing mutual aid. So, like obviously Hurricane Ian, Hurricane Michael, out of area responses where we don't have a standing mutual aid.
Yeah.
So that's still a time and 1/2.
That's the way it's proposed. If
Okay.
you guys have a counter, we could consider, you know, something that would be line the mutual aid up with the emergency activation and the LIUNA contract.
Okay.
Okay. Frankly, it's easier for us if we're treating emergency activation pay the same for all of those employees who were activated and deployed during the period. So, we could consider a counter on that if you all have one. All right. For wages, since we last met, I believe our current offer on the table was the 8.43 for police officers starting at, that gets us to that $50,000. This proposal is the same for police officers with the 8.43% increase. We did increase the sergeant, corporal and sergeant from 10% to 10.5% in the first year.
Okay.
And then in years 2 and 3, this proposal is for 2% on October 1st of each of the 2 following years. Other than that, structure is the same, merit increases are the same. We had already made the steps a 3% differential between those, so that gave a little bit of an extra in between steps. Anybody have any questions about the proposal?
Could we, so that just leaves the 3 open articles, CD, and then 30, and it's still obviously a 3-year proposal from the city.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Could we talk about it?
Sure. Yep, we'll step out.
Thank you, guys.
What was for the officers, what was the percentage in years 2 and 3?
I'm sorry,
2 and 2.
2 and 2, yeah. On page 2 and 3 of this proposal, AJ, you'll see the increase
Okay,
over
thank
current.
you.
It's 2% for everybody in years 2 and 3. Okay, yeah, we'll step out.
Thank you very much. Is everybody ready?
Yes.
Okay. So appreciate giving us a chance to chat about it. We'd like to make the following offers back to the city. Under Appendix D, H2, we would like to, again, just kind of a consistency thing, propose the double time in subsection 2. I think it's line 6, compensated at the rate of double time, just to match everything in that article.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else as proposed by the city.
Okay.
Appendix C, we took a look at, first, year 1 was exactly what we had always said from the beginning. It gives us that magic 50,000 number. We think that'll be a huge recruiting tool. You've already seen by the chief's last email, we're starting to unfortunately see that decline where we have 4 openings and only 2 applicants. So the prospective pool is becoming lower and lower for applicants. So we think that 50 is a good step, being competitive. And then the other thing that we've always the other tenet is that we want to stay competitive within the beaches agencies. Unfortunately, that 2-2 still finds us behind Atlantic and Neptune. And I know we can kind of work the math, 2080, all that good stuff over and over. What we'd like to ask the city is just split it with us, go 3%. So our counter is year 1 as proposed, and then years 2 and 3 at 3% and 3%, with all of the other adjustments, corporal sergeant, that you had noted earlier. So the only change being just
Years
that.
2 and 3.
Yes, ma'am.
3%.
So basically the last 2 columns, we think that 3% is a very, very modest, some of the inflationary outlooks by most economists still have us around, unfortunately, 4 or 5% next year. 3% just keeps it closer, and it prevents us from falling behind in years 2 and 3, and us being in the same boat in, when we come back in 2025. I may still be at the table. But instead of just playing catch up, we're kind of just playing maintenance at that point. And city's not having to eat these large, 1 year, which just seems like we're having to do the past couple of times we've come to the table,
Right.
which again, we're sympathetic to the fact that that's always difficult, on a budgeting side, to have to play the catch up in that first year to get caught up with surrounding agencies and just the market in general. So we think that 3-3 kind of, levels it out a little bit.
Keeps us a little bit more competitive.
And then the
okay.
last thing would be the Article 30, the entire agreement. Obviously, that would be good with 3 year.
If we can get to
Yes,
it,
ma'am.
if we can get to an agreement on
And
wages.
I think we'd all be willing to accept a pen and ink change with a TA at the table if y'all are willing to
Yeah,
talk about that, take a caucus and talk about that and come back rather than schedule another meeting.
I
we'd like to
agree.
be
We'd like to do
done.
that. If we can reach an agreement, we'd like to go ahead and TA it with some handwritten changes.
Yes, ma'am.
And then we can send you the updated schedules.
Perfect.
Okay. Let's take a quick focus.
You should have said that to me. 20.
Okay, so on, Article Appendix D, the position classification pay plan, we can agree to the double time for mutual aid. And we'll go ahead and I'm going to pencil that in and we can TA that one if you're good with that.
So the only thing, I just want to clarify,
Mm-hmm.
the mutual aid is exempted. You're talking about like an emergency act. I just don't want anybody to
What do
get
you mean
confused.
exempted?
So it says anybody that we have a standing mutual aid is exempt from this. These are full-blown
Right,
active.
right, right. Those
Okay.
are, okay, yes, yeah.
I just don't want
This is
mutual
if we
aid to,
deploy
Outside of,
Yes, ma'am. Outside of a
our
standing
mutual
mutual
aid
aid.
area.
Yes, ma'am.
right,
Right, because we have a standing mutual aid agreement with our surrounding cities.
right.
yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, I just
So if
wanted
you're
to,
deployed outside of the area, it's double time and then straight time for resting, and we also pay double time for travel.
correct. I just
and
want
per
to
diem under the cities.
Right.
clarify that, because this,
Yeah.
again, this would be if any of our officers deploy for E, and this will be the first time we've used this article, so I just want to make sure that,
True. The
that-
last time we used this article was in Michael. We sent a team to Panama City. Has to absorb that cost for this. Now, we can get reimbursement from the other agency. It takes time and they don't necessarily
correct.
reimburse us for all of our expenses. So there is a cost to the city here, but we do think it's important if you guys are deployed outside of the area that you're compensated
We
for
appreciate
all of the
that.
time that you're out there. So I'm going to sign off on that one, assuming we can get wages done. So for wages, year one, we're in agreement on. And your proposal is for year two to be 3% over year one across the board.
Yes, ma'am.
And in year three, 3% over year two across the board. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. With that in mind, I think that we can get this done.
Yay.
We did take a look at, did some kind of quick and dirty math, but the increase from our last proposal to this proposal is around $200,000. Difference, $185,000. With a total increase of over the 3-year period over our baseline, which is our current pay plan with the 3% increases, of being a little over $2 million. So I think that is something that our council is willing to support us in, and gets us a competitive pay plan that puts us in a whole lot better position, I think, in the market. So with that said, we're willing to TA on wages as well. Okay. So there's wages.
Thank you. And
Yes.
then the last one I have here, I'll sit
And you have the
Yep.
entire agreement? All right.
That's that one, and then let's do this one.
And so for those of you who are having to take leave from work, we tried to make up for the fact that I was 10 minutes late by making it go as quickly as we can. So I appreciate your patience. Are we good? Yes. All right. So I will update these pay tables with the 3% and update the Appendix D. In fact, I think we can go ahead and get you guys a full red line copy of the entire agreement.
Perfect. Because I know in years past, you've sent us clean and then red lines.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously with pension changes, we need the 2 readings. Are you
Yep.
guys planning on doing it during the regular council meetings, or are we looking at special?
I'll probably do it during the regular council meetings, but once we get a TA agreement, I still got to do a impact statement.
Okay.
So it's going to take a little bit of time on to get the ordinances read. It might not happen within the next month. As it stands, it's probably going to be the first meeting in November just to get the contract on the council agenda.
Okay.
So I hope that by then I can have the first reading of the ordinance. But the ordinance will be retroactive to October 1, just like the pay increases will be retroactive. to
And since
October
the
1.
pension's unfortunately included in the contract, we got to wait for both readings for the entirety of the contract, including the pay, to get. I think that's how we did.
Technically, yes, yeah.
I think that's how we did it in
to get
2020.
it-
We had to wait
We had
till
to wait
that
until the
second.
both readings of the ordinance. With that in mind, I'll see how quickly I can get an impact statement and try to move the ordinance up as quickly as I possibly can.
And then we'll do the same thing.
I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, we'll schedule the membership vote as soon as possible.
Yeah, if you can schedule a membership vote without that ordinance, obviously. And that's a technicality as far as I'm concerned. We would very much like to get these increases and put into the system as quickly as we can before we have those merit increases and pay changes and hiring new people, all of those things that, the longer we wait, the harder it is for everybody. So we want to get moving on it as quickly as we can.
Yeah, I think our next hires are slated around the November 10, 20 timeframe somewhere.
That'll be perfect because we can get the contract on the November 7th meeting for council. And we've had.
First reading?
The contract only takes 1 week.
Okay.
The ordinance, if I can get it on the deadline is this week for that. We could do a special meeting so that we can have a first reading.
I
of
know
the
that's what we
ordinance.
did in December, but that was in
Yeah.
2020, but that was kind of a rush and a special situation.
Trying to get it in before Christmas and stuff like that.
We do have a special meeting scheduled in November for the council member selection, so we might be able to squeeze it in. I don't want to hold up the whole contract because of a pension ordinance that, needs 2 readings. If we can get that done sooner, we will. But if we can get, if your membership ratifies it, and then we can get it on the council agenda, we can go ahead and start queuing up those pay increases to push the button as needed to get everything finalized. We've got to have council approval, but we've already had 2 shade meetings with council. And so I don't have any reason to think that this is something the council will not approve.
Okay.
Okay.
I think I gave you my packet back, my full packet back.
You can have mine,
Do you
JJ.
have? Thank you.
You have an extra? You need an extra?
No, I'm gonna get his back.
Okay.
All right.
You don't need any of it? I got that one.
Thank you very much.
Guys, it was a pleasure.
Was
I actually wrapped that up.
Was
in
it?
fewer
Yes.
meetings than usual, so that was
a pleasure meeting you.
It was really.
Ms. Robinson.
Great job, sir. Thank you, guys. We'll get y'all